Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and I just watched the second episode of Star Trek Prodigy, and I think it was a big improvement over the first episode because the first one felt much more like Star Wars than Star Trek. It was basically mostly action scenes, and it was just a bunch of Star Wars aliens banding together to escape a prison planet, which is ruled by General Grievous and his Sith Master, and that was basically the entire plot. The only thing similar to Star Trek was the ship itself, and the animation obviously is very beautiful, very expensive, and it's the same way in the second episode, so I have no complaints about the show visually. However, the story was kind of weak, but the second episode started to introduce the Star Trek elements, so we have the hologram of Janeway telling them all about Starfleet and the Federation, and all of that part was really neat, I thought. And the characters, I think a lot of them are likable and even lovable. A few of them are still annoying. The main kid, I forgot his name, who is kind of the cool kid and all of that, is a little bit annoying, but I'm hoping the character will improve as the show goes on. The giant rock creature, which is actually a little kid, is kind of adorable, probably the best character so far in terms of likability. And it is an actual character because they're starting to develop her personality wise and all of that. So, that I thought was the most likable character. The gooey creature is really cute and funny and all of that, but it's hard to call it a character because it doesn't speak, it doesn't really have a personality except being basically like a pet of the team. And the daughter of the main villain, who is basically stuck with them, I think has the most potential to be an interesting character. I'm hoping they will do it properly because, that whole conflict that she's not sure what side she's on. She wants to go back to her father, and yet she's starting to understand that he's evil and all of that. So she will be a conflicted character, and that is the most interesting kind of character. It's basically like Seven of Nine when she first came to Voyager. Because in the beginning she kept trying to escape and to go back to the collective, and even later on she had those inner conflicts and all of that. So that kind of character I think has the most potential to be interesting. The hologram of Janeway I also think has the potential to be an interesting character if they actually establish that she's becoming sentient, that it's not just a hologram that doesn't get what's going on. If she will become an actual character, then it will be more interesting. And that's basically the only link we have to Star Trek and Starfleet. And she can basically be like a teacher character who will teach these kids all about the values of Starfleet and all of that. So this is a good thing. And the episode did have a little bit of educational messages and all of that. That cool kid who is kind of rebellious and he wants to be the leader. He kind of learns a lesson in this episode that he has to know when to ask for help, that he doesn't know everything, and so he needs to be humbled and to learn about teamwork and all of that. And it felt like a Star Trek adventure in the sense that they're going on the ship into some space anomalies and they have to escape from them, even though the physics and all of that was a little bit unscientific. I didn't like how they escaped from that collapsing star somehow by using some explosion or something. That's the kind of JJ style of let's blow everything up and then everything will be okay. So I didn't like the technobabble in the episode. There was also some continuity issues when they showed the holograms of the previous Starfleet ships. We see what looks like the USS Discovery, but wasn't that classified in the end of season 2 of Discovery? So why are we seeing that ship? I guess it can be simply another ship of the same class. We do know there was at least one other ship of the same design, but wasn't the design itself of the spinning saucer made specifically for the spore drive? So why would other ships have that if that whole thing was classified? So that's a little bit of a minor nitpick. I guess it's forgivable. And speaking of super advanced engines, this ship also apparently has some kind of a super fast engine. And that's something I predicted early on because, why would the villains be chasing the ship unless it has something special? And also the intro of the show shows the ship flying at insane speeds. And I don't mind this idea of a super fast ship. The only problem with that is wouldn't they be able to get to the Federation really quickly if they have this kind of engine? But I guess maybe they don't want to go to the Federation, maybe they don't want the ship to be taken from them, maybe that's why they won't go back to Federation space, or maybe they won't be able to activate this super fast engine until later on in the show, or maybe it requires some kind of special resource which is limited, so they'll only be able to do the super fast jumps once in a while. And they will be chased around by the evil General Grievous and his master, who left the prison planet on what looks like a giant technodrome kind of vessel. and they'll be chasing them around the galaxy, I guess. And the villains are kind of generic. They seem to be made from a lot of ideas from other shows and movies that came before, but it doesn't mean that this show will be bad because of that, because especially for kids watching who don't know about all the previous stuff, for them it will be original. So it's not necessarily bad, and hopefully the villains will not be one-dimensional. Maybe the evil plan is not just to take over the galaxy for no reason, but maybe something a little bit more complex than that. Maybe that guy wants to bring back his dead species or something, and he doesn't just want to take over the galaxy. Maybe he has some good reasons for what he's doing from his point of view, and so that way it will be much more interesting, and that will tempt that other character, his daughter, to join him. So I'm hoping he will not be just 100% evil for no reason, because that's kind of boring in my opinion. The best villains are those who are a little bit more complicated and more conflicted and more interesting, because you might think they have some kind of point, that maybe their actions are understandable from a certain point of view, and then we can debate about the issues, and it's a morality tale, and it has some kind of moral dilemma, and all of those kinds of issues are always more interesting because it's something we can talk about and debate about, so it's not just black and white. So hopefully, even though the show is for kids, maybe it will be more interesting in the story and the character development and the inner conflicts and all of those kinds of things. I'm hoping will be good. Visually the show is very good, so I'm guessing it will be entertaining even for adults. And a lot of the characters are enjoyable to watch as well, so I will keep watching the show with the hopes that it will be interesting as well as visually fun. And one notable scene that I liked in the episode is when they show that the ship itself is able to replicate new shuttles in the shuttle bay. I like the scene because it neatly resolves the so-called plot hole from Voyager, which seemed to have an infinite amount of shuttles, and so this is an easy explanation that they are simply able to replicate new shuttles, even though I'm guessing it shouldn't be an infinite ability, because the shuttles also have small warp cores and all of that, so they need to have the lithium and antimatter and all kinds of materials which are not easy to replicate. So this ability to create shuttles must be limited. It's not an infinite ability. It requires other resources as well as energy, but it's still a plausible way to explain how Voyager was able to create infinite shuttles, and presumably they just collected the materials they needed from various planets and all of that. And so I kind of like this, and it did kind of remind me of a scene from the movie Minority Report, when Tom Cruise was fighting some bad guys in a car factory, and then he ended up inside a brand new car. They kind of ripped it off in this scene when this rock creature, which has the voice of a little girl, and I think the name is Rock Talk, a rock which talks, you get it? So the name is Rock Talk. So she fights the evil daughter of the Sith villain, who has some kind of nanotech sword or something, which is kind of cool. They do have a lot of cool stuff in the show. And so they're fighting in the midst of the process of replicating a new shuttle, and then the rock girl gets stuck inside the new shuttle and has to break out. This really reminded me of that scene from Minority Report, so maybe this scene was written by Kurtzman, I guess, because he likes to borrow ideas from other shows. And the whole part with the ship is falling inside some collapsing star, and then it needs to stop trying to escape and instead to fly right into it and then to slingshot out of it or something like that. I'm not sure that's how physics work, but the visuals are really nice. So overall I thought the episode was entertaining. I'm hoping the show will continue to improve and become better, and I will try to show it to my small nephew who is only 4 years old, so I'm not sure he'll be able to get what's going on, but he will probably enjoy it visually, so I will show it to him, and then I will be able to report on my findings in my future reviews. That's all for now. Let me know what you think and we can discuss it in the comments below, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.